Thank you, Sir John. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on Southern Cross University and the Hotel School. My name's Adam Roberts. I'm based down here in Melbourne at the Southern Cross campus here in Melbourne. We're very lucky to have some guest speakers today on the call. We'll have Mr. John Crowder, who heads up admissions for Southern Cross across all of the metro sites as well as the hotel school. We have John Dees on there and Angel in the background who support our offshore recruitment partners in China. And we also have Tim Rudling, who's based in Perth at the hotel school. So just a very brief introduction for you. What we'd like to do today is to give you some information on how to best prepare applications to go into Southern Cross to make sure that you get an offer and you get a visa really quickly. And John Crowder is the expert on that. And just before we launch into that, I'll just give you a quick update on what's happening across Southern Cross University. So as many of you will know, the campuses in Sydney, Melbourne and Perth and the hotel school have now been joined together into what we call SCU Ventures, Southern Cross Ventures. And that is now part of the university. So all of the campuses around Australia are now part of Southern Cross, and that gives us a few opportunities. The first one is that we've been able to introduce very, very popular new academic programs at the university. So last year we launched education and early childhood. This year, for term 3, we're about to have the first intake for the graduate diploma of teaching, which prepares primary and secondary teachers. And very exciting, next year we'll have a new range of programs coming into our campuses. We'll have new IT programs, new business programs, and new engineering programs. And across all of those programs, there's a focus on work experience for students, so students doing internships. There's a focus on artificial intelligence. So IT and business are both going to be offering artificial intelligence in there. And also we're going to be including industry certifications. So as an example, if a student does a Bachelor of IT or a Master of IT, they'll come out with a suite of Microsoft credentials, as well as the Bachelor from the university and the work experience that they've got. So a whole range of new programs launching next year. And we're also very pleased to announce that all of the tuition fees for the courses across the metro campuses will be set at $26,000 for next year. So we're still, we think, the best value Australian university. So all new students, all ongoing students in the hotel school or in one of the SCU programs will have the tuition fee set at $26,000. So watch out. We are going to be announcing all of those new programs over July and August, and we'll provide some more training when they come out. So at this stage, I'll hand over to my colleague, Mr. John Crowder, who's also in Melbourne, to take over and run us through some admissions training. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon, everyone. So what I'll be talking to you about today is really some of the red flags that we experience and that we have been advised of when speaking with immigration about particularly applicants from offshore China. So I've just shared my screen with you, and I'm going to go through this in some detail. A few weeks ago, I spent quite a bit of time with immigration talking about our top 10 markets, of which China is one. And what are the most common red flag issues that impact applicants from China being able to get a student visa granted? At the moment, China has emerged as one of our bigger issues in terms of visa refusals. And we are seeing a higher rate of visa refusals from offshore China than we have ever seen before. Most of these students that are getting visa refusals are coming from what we call non-cognate backgrounds. This means that the student is applying for a course for which they have no background. So, for example, a student has completed a Bachelor of Business in China and they want to come to Australia to study a Master of Teaching in Early Childhood or a Master of Nursing or something like this. So where there is no background in that study and the student is intending to change their career path, we are seeing a higher rate of visa refusals. This does not mean that students cannot apply for a course if they are not from a cognate background. But what it does mean is that the preparation of the application to the university and the documents going toward the visa application are aligned and very clear. So I'm going to go through the top 8 points you'll see here for issues affecting offshore applicants from China. The first of these is overqualification or course downgrading. What this means and what we've been advised is that applicants who already have master's degrees or bachelor degrees applying for lower AQF courses are flagged as a potential issue. We see this quite often with applicants from China who already have a master's degree, for example, and they want to come to Australia to do another bachelor's degree or sometimes another master's degree. If the student is going from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree, it will be flagged as academic downgrading, and that suggests to immigration that the student is potentially not genuine. At SCU, we generally will not accept a student who has completed a master's degree and now wants to study a different bachelor degree. If the student has completed a master's degree in another field and now wants to study a new master's degree, let's say in education, we will consider those students on a case-by-case basis. But what we need to see very clearly is when the applicant chooses their course, that it shows a logical academic progression or that it is professionally required. So if the student, as I said, has completed a master's degree in business and they now want to apply for a master's degree in education, they would need to be able to justify why they are changing their career path and why this course is professionally required. We would also like them to justify that the new degree is an upgrade to their skills, or it is a change in their career, and for them to explain why they are changing their career. So again, we will accept such cases, but the student must be very careful to provide a clear, evidence-backed explanation for their selection of course. And this is flagged as the #1 issue for students from China. The second one is an unclear study motivation or generic genuine student statement. One of the most common issues we see is that genuine student statements often contain vague justifications like Australia has high quality education or I want to experience a different culture. These type of comments are useless. They do nothing to show the student's genuine intention, and as such, they will generally result in a student failing the genuine student requirement if they're unable to explain that clearly. So what students should be focusing on is the course content and teaching model. So if the student is choosing to study the Master of Teaching in early childhood education, for example, we would want them to explain to us that they understand the content of that course, and they also have an understanding of the teaching model. So for example, at SCU, that would be the Southern Cross model, in which students will study 2 units per term for 4 terms of the year. So we want to see that the student has a very clear understanding of their course. We would expect them to name at least 1 or 2 units that they will be studying in that course and explain how those units are going to help them achieve their career goals. They would need to also explain the specific benefits of studying the course in Australia, where such benefits are not available in China. So, in other words, they need to have a very strong understanding of why they want to study this course in Australia compared to China, and how studying this course in Australia will improve their employability when they return to China later. They should show how the course matches their current qualifications or job goals, or matches their intentions for a career change, if that's what they're planning on doing. The third one is limited return on investment. So this one is something that immigration looks at very closely, and therefore we look at very closely. In order to meet the genuine student requirement, a student needs to prove that their return on investment is strong and that they are able to explain clearly that return on investment. Immigration is often concerned about applicants taking on high tuition debt without very clear post-study income potential. So in other words, if a student is coming to Australia to study a 2-year master's degree, they will be spending on average 110,000 Australian dollars for the 2 years. That is made up of their tuition fees, which based on this year's fees would be $50,000, plus their living expenses for 2 years, which based on current immigration requirements is approximately $30,000 per year. So that investment of $110,000 is really important. The student needs to be able to demonstrate that they will have a strong return on that investment and how long it is going to take them to recover that investment. They should make sure that they're able to quote realistic salaries in China for the occupation that they intend to go back and engage in. So again, if they're going to study early childhood education and they're going to go back to China to work in that field, we would expect them to be able to quote realistic salaries from job platforms in China. They should be able to mention their targeted job roles and even companies that they might want to work for. And they need to calculate their return on investment timeframe to recover their study investment. For example, they need to be able to tell us that they expect their return on investment between 2 or 3 years or between 7 and 8 years, whatever it might be. In order to calculate that return on investment, students should be considering their expected income minus tax and living expenses and calculate how long it is going to take them to earn that back when they commence employment. So the return on investment is very important. Misalignment with career path is another major issue that we find with applicants from China. The most common issue is that the course has no connection to their past studies or experience. And this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. So immigration has said that there's a high likelihood of refusal in such cases unless the student can provide a convincing transition narrative and evidence of the value of the new course to their employment and their remuneration prospects. So in other words, if a student is coming to study a course that they have no background in, there is a high chance of visa refusal unless they are able to clearly explain their reasons. And this is why we go to so much trouble getting students to complete a genuine student statement in which they outline the benefit of that course to their future. That is the key determining factor. They must be able to clearly explain why this course, for which they have no relevant background, is appealing to them, why they want to change their career to include a career that aligns with this new course, and how that is going to help them get better employment and higher salary when they complete that degree. They need to be able to justify their change in academic or career pathway with things like work history. So, for example, if they have a degree in business, but they have been working as a teacher in China or been working with children, and now they want to apply for a formal qualification in early childhood studies, we would expect to see evidence of their work history, the employment that they achieved doing that work, any additional training that the student may have done to help them get employment in that area. And we would want to see a clear long-term plan that is supported by the sectoral needs in China. So to put that in some perspective, we get a lot of very generic statements from students from China saying that early childhood education is in increasing demand in China, and that salaries in international kindergartens are very high. What we don't get is a lot of evidence to back up and prove that those statements are true. So if a student just provides a statement saying that early childhood teachers are in high demand in China, but does nothing to prove that that is a genuine statement, then it is likely that they will not pass the genuine student statement, and even more likely that they won't receive a visa. They also need to be able to clearly show what a realistic salary is in that field. The next one is that post-study plans are vague or missing. What this means is that very often in their statements and visa applications, applicants do not clearly explain why they plan to return to China or how they will use their new qualification when they do return. Generally, again, what we see are very generic comments about I intend to return to China and open my own childcare centre. This is a very dangerous comment to make. There's nothing to say that a student can't open their own childcare centre, but experience shows that when a student says such a thing, immigration will want a very clear business plan outlining how they intend to open their own early childhood centre, what it is going to cost them to open that centre, how they are going to raise the cost of opening their own centre, how they will find staff to employ in that centre, and what return on investment they expect to get after 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years of operating an early childhood centre. So to say simply that I intend to open my own early childhood centre or kindergarten is problematic and should be avoided unless the student has a very detailed business plan explaining how they intend to achieve that. If the student intends to go back to work for a kindergarten, particularly an international kindergarten that allegedly has higher salaries, they should be able to give examples with the names of kindergartens that they could potentially work at and evidence of the type of salaries that teachers at those particular centres could expect to earn upon graduation. So it is not just about making comments, it is about backing everything up with evidence, proving that there is demand for their occupation in China, and proving that they will get better job opportunities and higher salaries by doing this course in Australia. English proficiency concerns. Now, this isn't such a big issue for us because we generally do not accept students on ELICOS pathways, and students from China must meet the English requirement before we will accept them into a course. We have seen recently an increase in the number of visa refusals for students coming from China on ELICOS pathways. We've seen this through our main campus where ELICOS pathways are provided. So it is really important that the student is able to demonstrate strong IELTS scores and strong communication skills at the point of application and throughout their visa application. Another big one for China is this one here, which is overseas study history and visas. The common issue here is that we see many students from China who have previously studied in other countries like the UK, US, or Canada, and now they're wanting to come to Australia to study another course. We have seen an increase in such students being questioned. Why do you now want to come to Australia when you already have a degree from the UK or Canada? Why not do it in the UK or Canada instead of coming to Australia? Again, this does not mean that we will not accept students who have completed a degree in another country, but we will ask them to explain clearly why they now want to study in Australia after completing their degree in one of those countries. What is really important here is that the student acknowledges that prior study. They don't try to leave it out and hope that we won't think about it. They should explain their choice for their previous studies. So explain why they decided to go to the UK to study a bachelor degree, and then explain why Australia is now better suited to them for their postgraduate study. That could be things like the particular course that they want to study. May not be readily available in the UK, for example. It might be about course delivery or affordability. There's a whole range of reasons that a student may choose to come to Australia after studying in another country, but they must be able to explain it clearly. If there were visa refusals or course withdrawals in that other country, they must also be disclosed and explained. Again, we will not reject a student outright if they have a previous visa refusal, but we will ask for a explanation of that refusal and look at the reasons for refusal before we decide. The final one that has been flagged as a concern is the use of agents or third-party statements. Now, the issue here is that immigration has identified that the statements being written by students are generally not written by students. They have been written by an agent, and therefore they lack that personal feel. It is very clear to us when we're reading a genuine student statement, whether that statement has been genuinely written by the student or whether it's been written by an agent. If the statement has been written by an agent, they tend to be templated responses. And if I read 10 statements from the same agent, those 10 statements will be very similar. If the student is writing the statement themselves, the student's voice is very different to the agent's voice. The student knows their own situation a lot better, and that comes across as more genuine in the statement. What we also do is we compare the level of English written in the statement to the level of English that the student has received in their IELTS. So if a student has received an IELTS 6 and is coming to do a bachelor degree, but their genuine student statement shows a much higher level of English, we would assume that the statement has not been written by them, and it is likely that they would be penalised for that. We also use AI to check whether genuine student statements are AI generated. So students should not be getting AI to write their statements for them. We are able to check that, and the student will fail if we see that their statement has been generated by AI. It's important to note that immigration also uses AI in the assessment of applications. So it is really important that if students are using AI, they can use it to correct their grammar, for example, or to improve their statement, but it should not be solely generated by AI. So those are the key red flag areas for applicants coming from offshore China. I will spend a little bit of time having a look at the genuine student statement and giving you some tips on how to ensure when you are writing that genuine student statement that the student has the best chance of succeeding. So I'll just stop sharing there and reshare my screen. So on our website, this is the SCU Ventures website, you will see this area here, the genuine student requirement. Clicking on that will take you through to the genuine student statement, which is this one here. Click on that, and for Chinese students, we would generally accept the GS onshore and level 1 statement. So this one here. If you click that, it will open up the genuine student template. And this is the one you should be using, the onshore and level 1. You'll note that there are red asterisks throughout the form. Wherever there is a red asterisk, it means it is a mandatory field and must be completed. If you do not complete a mandatory field, you will not be able to submit the form, and you will get an error message like this, saying it's a required field with an exclamation mark. If you go back and complete that field, you will see that it will update and correct. This field here is extremely important. This is the email address attached to the student's study link record. This email address is unique for every student, and it is the email address to which this form will be submitted. So if this email address is incorrect, we will not receive the form. Even if you get a message to say the form has been successfully submitted, it does not mean it has been received. This email address will always follow this format. It will start with APP dash, and then it will be the application number in StudyLink. It is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is just an example. So it will be APP dash application ID at intadmissions.scu.edu.au. And you need to enter that email address in that format here. That is where the form will be submitted to. If you put in the correct email address, we will receive the form in StudyLink in the student's record. This email address would be your own email address, whoever is submitting the form. This is very important because if you put your email address in here, when you submit the form, you will also receive a copy of the form. So if we don't receive it, you can forward us a copy of the form that you received rather than having to submit the whole form again. That will take you a lot of time. So ideally, this email address will always be correct, but if for some reason it is not, and you have entered your email address here, you will receive a copy of that. If we contact you to say we have not received your form and you have already submitted it, you can just send us a copy of what you sent rather than filling in the form again. The student ID number you would fill in here, and then you would just answer these questions. Yes or no, whatever the case may be. Remembering that they all have red asterisks and therefore are mandatory. You then come to the main section of the genuine student statement. What is important here, we have given you tips on what to write in the statement. So for each question, you will have the question, the text box in which to write your response, and below that, we give you dot points outlining what you must talk about. So in question 1, give details of your current circumstances, including ties to family, community, employment, and economic circumstances. Before the student starts writing, they should read this, because each response field gives you only 1,000 characters. This is exactly the same as you would have in the visa application. These are the same questions you get in the visa application and the same number of characters in which to respond. We expect that your responses to the genuine student statement are exactly the same as the answers you will provide in your visa application. We also require that you share the visa application with us in IMI account. This is something that immigration has recommended over and over, that universities ensure that the agent shares the visa application for students with us in IMI account, and we will go in and check to make sure that the responses provided here are the same as the responses provided in the visa application. If they are not, there is a very strong chance that the visa may be refused. Immigration has said they expect the information to be the same. So under this box, we give these hints. The student must comment and provide evidence of their family, social, cultural, religious, and financial ties to their home country. If something is in red, that means it is very important and they should spend more time talking about this. They must clearly demonstrate their reasons for not studying this course in their home country if a similar course is available to them there. And you must discuss your personal circumstances in your home country and demonstrate that these circumstances would not incentivize you to apply for a student visa for any other reason than the genuine study in Australia. If all of these 3 points are covered in the response, the student is more likely to pass the genuine student statement. What we often see is that students will mention 1 or 2 of these, but they don't talk about all. In such cases, they will lose points. So it is essential that you look at the information under the text box to get an idea of what is required. Once that has been completed, the student will then upload their evidence. So for each claim that they make in this answer, we expect evidence to back up that claim. Each question has only one upload button. So if you want to provide multiple pieces of evidence for question 1, you need to combine that evidence into one document and upload it here. To upload, all you do is click on the upload button, select your file, and upload it there. You will know that the file has correctly uploaded because you will see the name of the file below the upload button. If you see that name there, it tells you the file has been attached and we will receive that. If you do not see this here or you're unable to upload your file, the main reason for that is that you are usually trying to upload from an external source, such as a USB drive. We always recommend that you have your documents on your desktop and upload them from there, and you can delete them later. If you try to upload files through a USB drive, you may have problems. So you would do the same for all these questions. Question number 2, explain why you wish to study this course in Australia with Southern Cross University, including your clear understanding of the requirements of the intended course and studying and living in Australia. It is very important to read the question and understand what we are asking. Again, we indicate below what they must talk about. The student must show that they have a good understanding of Australia and Southern Cross University and the course they will study. They must demonstrate knowledge of living in Australia, including why they have chosen their campus, what are their proposed living arrangements and the costs of those. And they should talk about their course structure and any specific units that are of particular interest that will benefit their future. Again, if they clearly respond to all of those 3 dot points, they are likely to get a high score there and pass. Question 3, explain how completing this course will be of benefit to you. Again, we give you tips what to talk about. You must talk about how your proposed course is relevant to your future employment. Here we have in red again, so remember anything in red is very important. You must discuss how this course will improve your employability and your remuneration prospects when you complete the qualification, including a comparison of your potential salary in your home country compared to Australia. You must address your return on investment. We expect to see the student clearly explain their return on investment. This is essential. Now, I'll give you some tips on how to do that. When you are explaining a return on investment, firstly, we want to look at the costs. So what does this mean? Tuition fees. So currently, the tuition fees this year are 25,000 Australian dollars per year. That means $50,000 for a 2-year master degree. Secondly, we look at living costs. Immigration currently requires approximately 30,000 Australian dollars per year. So that is approximately 60,000 Australian dollars for 2 years. Those are the those are the costs associated with the degree. The total for that is 110,000 Australian dollars. So that is the first part of the return on investment. Then we need to look at part 2, which is their expected salary. Let's just say that their expected salary after they complete their degree and return to China is 50,000 Australian dollars per year. Out of that, they need to take tax and living expenses. So let's say their tax, this is just an example, is $10,000 per year, and their living expenses is another $10,000 per year. That means the amount that they can save from their salary is $30,000 per year. So to work out the return on investment, we want to look at the cost divided by expenses. So that is $110,000 divided by $30,000, which is the amount you can save per year, and that equals your ROI in years. So that would mean that the ROI for this student in this situation is approximately 3.5 to 4 years. That is how you would work it out. If the student is able to explain it like that in their statement clearly, they will get high marks. So again, looking at everything listed under the text box will give you a strong idea of what to concentrate on and will ensure that this student gets an offer. Any other details that you want to include? This is not a compulsory section, but we strongly recommend that you don't leave it blank. This is where you get additional space to give any other information that you want to talk about. For example, if the student's course is in a different field to what they've completed before, they should explain here why they now want to change their career path, etc. So really important to use that as additional space. If the student has previously studied in Australia, they need to give details of that study. When did they arrive? What course did they do, etc. If they did not, just type NA, not applicable, and that will be fine. If we request evidence of finances, this is where you would upload it. Now, for China, we don't always request that, but we do if there are red flags in the student's application. Once you've uploaded everything, you would click submit. If your application is complete, you will see the processing message. If there were any errors or you'd left information out, you would get an error message. Then you will receive this message to say that the statement has been successfully submitted and a member of the admissions team will process it. Again, that does not mean we have received it. It is all about whether or not that study link email address was correct. So that is the genuine student statement. Hopefully that has given you some good ideas about what we are expecting in an application and what the red flags are for applicants from China. China is obviously a very important source market for us, and we do everything we can to ensure that your applications are processed quickly with as little trouble as possible. But by following the tips that we've given you today, you can ensure that your applications will be processed quickly and that you will receive an offer. So thank you for your time. I'm going to pass it now back to John and Angel for them. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John Crowder, for the very insightful sessions with the tips and also what are the needs that we need to avoid. Okay, so let's proceed with the questions. I hope everyone, if you have any questions, you can drop your message here. So, John, we have first question here from Eva. From now on, for all the applications from China, the applicants are asked to submit the online GS form before accepting the offer, right?
That's right. So all students, all offshore students, regardless of where they're from, are required to provide a genuine student statement. For China, it is the onshore and EL1 template, which is the simplest one. We do not always require evidence of finances and things. We will let you know if we need that.
Okay, thank you. So don't worry, because if the student is okay to pay or to proceed for payment, we have notification that the student is the GSR approved, and accept the offer, and then we give the link. So in these steps, we have a updates for that, and also we have the process for that. Thank you so much again. And then we have another question. What is now the new age limit for Chinese offshore?
Generally speaking, for undergraduate students, we will accept a student up to the age of 30 for China. For postgraduate students, it will generally be up to the age of 35. This is for offshore students. If they're onshore, we'll accept any age, but not under 18. So we do not accept any students under the age of 18. On a case-by-case basis, we may consider postgraduate students up to the age of 40, but it will be case by case and it will depend on their profile.
I see. Thank you. And then we have another question. I have students graduated engineering but have experience in teaching but in adults section. Can student okay to apply for GDEC?
Uh, yes, there's nothing to stop them applying. Remember, so the student has experience teaching adults. They're now going to study early childhood education. They would need to explain why they are no longer interested in engineering, how a career in early childhood education will be beneficial for them, and why now they want to change from teaching adults to teaching infant children. But yes, it is possible.
Thank you. And I received a personal message. The students have a visa refusal. Is it still okay to reapply, or when they can reapply for it?
So, generally speaking, if the visa refusal is recent, as in within the last 2 to 3 months, we generally won't accept it. If the visa refusal is at least 6 months ago, we will look at it on a case by case basis. If the student can demonstrate to us that the reasons for their previous visa refusal no longer exist, then we will probably approve their application.
Yeah, so it will be a case by case basis. But I think for the applications, John, we they need to declare it
Correct.
upfront, and then also kindly attach any supporting documents or visa refusal letter for the application so that we can assess it accordingly.
It's really
And
important. So if the student does have a visa refusal and doesn't declare it at the time of application, and we find out about it later, the student will be rejected because they've lied in their application. So it is really important that if they do have a visa refusal, tell us up front, explain the visa refusal to us, and it is likely that we will approve them.
thank you. That's very clear, Sean. Okay. Another question sent to me. Is it okay to change major, student graduate diploma early childhood, and then student go to masters of teaching in secondary? Because currently we only offered graduate diploma from three different majors, but they would like to do a master's, different GDEC from graduate diploma of early childhood and then master of teaching in secondary. How we can proceed with that?
No, that is not possible. So the Graduate Diploma of Education in Early Childhood um, will articulate into the Master of Teaching in Early Childhood. The teaching requirements for early childhood and primary and secondary are very different. So it is not possible to transfer from the Graduate Diploma of Education into the Master of Teaching primary or secondary. Um, the student would need to do the graduate diploma of teaching primary and secondary and go into the Master of Teaching primary or secondary.
I see. Okay, I think that's it. Any questions? We're still open for any questions or clarification, especially for the GSR, the tips, the process, the informations or requirements. Maybe do you still have specific student that needs clarification? Okay, going once. Anyone? I think that's it, John. If they have any additional questions, I think they're able to email you or me, and then I'll raise it with you. Again, thank you so much, John, for the very insightful sessions, the red flags that we need to avoid or we need to highlight as well in preparing the GSR. And for everyone, thank you so much for making the time. We will be sending a thank you email after within this week together with the links and maybe the recordings as well. And then I would like to invite you as well for next week for another webinar regarding with the products, the courses, and then the key selling point of SCU and the hotel school. Again, thank you so much, John. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
afternoon.